many people who experience pain become afraid, particularly with back pain, that movement will further injure their back. And I think many of the narratives around back pain contribute to this fear. So I mentioned in a previous video that often we are told that we must sit a particular way, or sleep a particular way, or bend or lift things a very specific way to protect our back. And I feel that these messages are really unhelpful because your back is strong and it's designed to move. And there is no one right way to sit or stand or lift or bend or work at a desk. And some of these messages come from health and safety, occupational health, work-related occupational health, but some of it comes too from the fitness industry. And here I just want to make a quick distinction because I am a big fan of the fitness industry in general. I love my gym and I love exercise, and so I think it might be helpful to just make a quick distinction between lifting, say, a heavy weight at the gym and what good posture in that context means compared to lifting day to day. Now, when you're at the gym, usually you're doing a specific exercise to work a particular muscle or group of muscles. And so the reason you adopt a specific posture for those exercises is not because it protects your back or keeps your back safe. It's actually more to do with targeting all the work to the right place. Often when lifting heavy weights, you want to develop strength or endurance or hypertrophy, which is enlarging the muscles in a particular place. You might be trying to achieve a particular aesthetic, or it might be for sports performance. And so good posture in those scenarios is not so much about protecting, but about achieving a particular goal. So just this morning, I was doing some shoulder exercises, and the personal trainer who I work with was telling me that when I was doing rowing exercises, I should keep my head up so that I work the muscles through my shoulders here more efficiently, because at the moment we're trying to tone up my shoulders. But it was not to protect my neck or protect my upper back or my shoulders, because actually my upper back and my shoulders and my neck can move safely in many different ways. And that's what I'd like to demonstrate to you today with the help of this prop. Now, I feel like every chiropractor has one of these in their office. spine. Obviously it's not life-sized, it's scaled down. Some chiropractors have life-sized ones of these. In fact, when I was a student, I seem to remember I had a much bigger one when I was learning about the anatomy of the spine. But I decided on a smaller one for my clinic. So, what I'd like to do is talk to you about the anatomy of your spine, and in doing so I hope to demonstrate to you that your back is strong and is designed to move. And I hope that by showing you this, you will feel less fear about moving your back. So, should we start at the top? I am going to point out that this is not part of your spine. This is the hook that it hangs on. So you can ignore the metal bit. So, we're also missing, of course, the skull, which would sit on top here. Let me come a bit closer so that you can see a bit better. Is that okay? Is that all right? So, at the top we have 7 small bones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are the vertebrae that make up your neck. And you can see in between them, apologies if this is off screen, you can see in between them we have discs. And this is a common theme that you will see in the spine. So we have 7 bones that make up the neck. We then have 12 more bones, vertebrae, that make up your thoracic spine, so your upper back. And off each of these 12 vertebrae, you would have a rib coming out here to come around and protect your heart and your lungs and everything in your chest cavity. Obviously the ribs are not on this model, this is just the spine, but your ribs would attach here. So, we then have 5 bones at the bottom of your spine, and these make up your lower back. Now, you may notice that your vertebrae get larger here at the bottom. In fact, it's been gradually increasing in size as we go down your spine. This is the front of your spine. So if the skull was attached here, the face would be looking at you right now. And this is the part of the spine that is responsible for weight bearing, so carrying your body weight. And you can see that each of these bones and the discs in between them is very square, very thick, and very sturdy. So it is perfectly designed for weight bearing, for carrying and lifting, as well as supporting your own body. Now, these structures are remarkably strong. bones, the vertebrae are quite dense, and the discs in between them are made of a thick and fibrous gel, which acts like a shock absorber. So any movement or impact is cushioned by these discs. Now, if you're wondering exactly how strong these bones are, there have been studies done on how much pressure a spine can take before it is injured. And in a cadaver spine, so this is a spine that was donated to science after a person had died. So a spine just by itself, no supporting muscles or ligaments. This part of the spine up here, the neck, which has the smaller bones and the smaller discs, could take 80 pounds of pressure before any injury occurred in the discs. Now remember, 80 pounds of pressure is more weight than we would ever put on our head in day-to-day life. Not only that, but remember, this is where the bones and the discs are the smallest. So actually, the capacity of the whole spine to weight bear is much higher, because, as we've already said, the bones and the discs get larger and more able to support weight as we go down. And remember as well that those tests were done on non-living spines, so spines that did not have a blood supply or an immune system that could repair them, and it was done in isolation without muscles or ligaments to support it. So in a person, your capacity to weight bear through your spine is likely to be very high indeed. And all this is to say that you are not fragile. Your bones and your discs in your back are very strong. Now, let's take a look at the back of the spine. We'll turn this round. At this point, perhaps I should point out that I know a lot of ASM artists have beautiful nails. I love gentle whispering. She's my favourite. And Maria always has stunning nails. But because I still work as a manual therapist, I have to keep mine short. So I'm sorry if these noises are not as crisp as they could be. Let's take a look at the back of the spine. So, I've bent my model. Let's turn you round. There we go. He has a little metal rod in here that sometimes gets a bit twisted. Thankfully, we don't have that in our spines. Now, the back of the spine looks very different, doesn't it? Instead of these square bones and lovely thick discs, we have all these bony protrusions running down the back. also see, if we just turn it slightly to the side, there are lots of interlocking parts of the spine through here. Now these interlocking parts are the joints of your spine, and this is where all the movement comes from in your back. So can you see as I turn and twist our friend here, those joints glide over each other and slide past each other to allow for rotation of the spine. They can also slide past each other like this to allow for what we call lateral flexion, so side bending. And of course they can slide over each other forwards and backwards to allow for flexion and extension. So this is where all the movement in your spine comes from the back of the vertebrae. And these bony protrusions that we mentioned earlier are actually little anchoring points for muscles, and they act like a little lever. So if you imagine you have a muscle here and a muscle here attached onto this protrusion, if this muscle contracts, it will pull the process that way and rotate the spine, and obviously the same this way. I'll pull it that way. So the back of your spine is beautifully designed to be moved, and truth be told, it's happiest when it's moving. These joints, and actually your discs as well, very much rely on regular movement for their nutrition. So your joints are actually surrounded by a fluid called synovial fluid, and this is pumped around the joint in a similar sort of way to how your blood is pumped around your body. And the synovial fluid has dissolved within it nutrients that will nourish the joints, but also act as a lubricant to make the joints move smoothly. And this synovial fluid relies on you moving your spine in order to pump the synovial fluid around the joint. And in the same way, or a very similar way, your discs actually don't have a direct blood supply. They rely on being compressed downwards with weight and then decompressed. So what happens then is, as you compress a disc, some of the fluid that is within that gel will be squeezed out. While it's squeezed out, nutrients will be dissolved into it. And then as you decompress by setting down a weight or changing position or moving, that now nutrient-rich fluid will be reabsorbed and nourish the disc. So not only is your back designed to move and to carry weight, but several structures in your back actually rely on you moving regularly for their nutrition. And this is why exercise, any movement, will help your spine feel better. In fact, there's now a large body of evidence supporting many different types of exercise, not just for mechanical low back pain, that is pain in your back that is coming from a structure in your back, like a disc or a muscle or a tendon. Exercise is, of course, very good for that. But actually, there is a lot of evidence now that any type of movement could help any kind of pain, even pain that is not coming directly from a structure. But this may be a topic for another video, because it's a very large topic. Now, we have been talking on this model about the bones and the discs and the joints and the bony protrusions. But I know some of you will be wondering what these are. These yellow bits of plastic. These are here to represent the nerves. So, in between your vertebrae, your vertebral body at the front, and your discs, and the joints and spinous processes at the back, there is actually a canal, the spinal canal, that runs between them, so deep within them here. That houses the spinal cord, and these individual nerves separate from the spinal cord through these little tunnels you can see here, and each of these nerves will go to a different body part. So the nerves in your neck generally tend to go into your shoulders and your arms. Your thoracic nerves tend to run around your chest, and your lumbar or lower back nerves tend to run into your pelvis, hips, and down your legs. And then actually, you'll notice there are a few in this bone as well. This is the sacrum, which attaches to the pelvis bones here, and that houses your hip joints. These sacral nerves tend to run around your pelvic floor and control things like your bowel and your bladder. In fact, some of the nerves up here control your bowel and your bladder too. So, that was a brief tour of the anatomy of the spine, and I hope that you feel reassured that your spine is strong and designed to move. I would just like to take a moment to address one other point. I'm going to change sides. I would just like to take a moment to address one more thing. And perhaps this is a big topic and should be in another video too, but I will just touch on it briefly here. We've been looking at this model, and everything looks great. But the only place that a textbook spine exists is in a textbook, because this is a model of a spine that has never been used. It's never played at the park, walked the dog, lifted up a grandchild, done a sport, sat at a desk. And that is why it looks pristine. I just wanted to mention here that this is a textbook spine and not a normal spine. A normal spine, even one that is not in pain, would have small disc bulges, evidence of wear such as osteoarthritis, or the discs perhaps becoming a little thinner, or perhaps some extra bone just growing on the joints to help them be more stable. And the reason I want to mention this is because it is normal to have these things on your spine. It just shows that you've been using it. These things are not, in and of themselves, painful. And I mention this because MRIs and X-rays are wonderful pieces of technology that are very sensitive, and they will pick up all these normal changes in the spine. And there is a danger, I think, that we then pathologize these normal changes or make them out to be an illness or a disease process, when actually they're just normal signs of use. So, for example, I sometimes tell my patients that little bits of wear and tear that show up on MRIs or X-rays or CT scans are like wrinkles on the inside. We all get wrinkles from smiling, from raising our eyebrows, from aging, from life. It's evidence that we've used our face to be expressive. But wrinkles are not painful, are they? And when we get wrinkles, we don't assume that we're ill. And in the same way, when we see little bumps, irregularities, bits of wear on imaging, we need to be very cautious before we assume that it's caused by a disease. So, I hope that you have found today's video helpful. I would love it if you were less afraid of movement. As one of my heroes, Lorimer Moseley, who is a pain scientist in Australia, as he often says, motion is lotion. Your body is designed to move and is happiest when moving. Now again, exercise may well be a whole separate video, but if I could just give you 2 little pointers. Start exercising where you are. Don't try and run a marathon before you've done any training. Don't be frustrated if at the beginning you can only do a little. That's fine. Even if you are doing a little, you will be doing infinitely more than someone who is doing none. So start where you are. And number 2, and I think perhaps this is the most important, do an exercise that you love. Don't take up running or weightlifting if you don't enjoy it. Most of the research around exercise and rehabilitation suggests that most patients are not compliant with their exercise routine because they hate it. And to me, this is not so shocking. I think I hate most prescribed exercises too. I just don't find them fun. for now. Thank you so much for coming to the clinic.